We got to talk about food prices because I've been communicating to you guys for a long time that when you wind up getting these raises or you see what's happening in California and we know what's happening with Pizza Hut and that they laid off all of their drivers and now they basically depending on delivery apps, we don't know what's going to go on with that because Gavin Newsom is a crazy man over there in California. But food prices is skyrocketing. It's starting to affect what's happening in the markets. Take a look.
Meanwhile, higher regulations mean higher costs. The burritos and Big Macs are going to cost more in California because minimum wage in the state just jumped $20 an hour. All of that's happening in April. And that will find its way to you. Fat Brands chairman and founder Andy Wiederhorn joins us now. Andy, thank you so much. Curious about how you see in your business higher wages if you have to pass that on to the consumer. Is the consumer handling that?
Well, the consumers who are voters must have known what they were getting into by promoting this legislation to raise the minimum wage from $15 to $20 and on its way to $25. And look, everyone wants their employees to make more money, but it just costs and someone's got to pay for it. And the restaurant operators don't have the margin for that. So prices are going to go up.
Andy, you've got the McDonald's CEO talking about affordability. Everybody thinks of that brand and thinks of a cheap meal, a fast meal. Having said that, we know that Big Mac combos are running roughly $18, and it's not a surprise when you see minimum wage at 20. But there's so much pressure on the fast food chain to bring that price down. Even President Biden calling out the grocery chains and saying, bring your prices down or we'll call you out. In some cases, they can't do it and still run a business, can they?
There's no way. I mean, look, a restaurant operator makes anywhere from 5 to 15% in the bottom line at the end of the day. And if your labor cost is 1/3 of your cost, so 30%, and you raise the wage from $15 to $20 or $25 over the next couple of years, you're almost doubling that cost. And so they're going to have to raise prices. I mean, there are things you can do as an operator to promote value. For just as an example, you could do an all cheese pizza instead of a pepperoni pizza or barbecue chicken pizza. Things like that. You can control your portion size. You can use a little bit of technology. But look, we're still in the hospitality business, and the guest experience has to be number one. I mean, as we return from COVID to dining rooms and dining out and even to-go food, I mean, the guest wants a good experience, and that just costs money.
And the reality is that, listen, I don't know what our president is doing. I don't know if his advisors are actually informing him on how things go in the restaurant industry or in the hospitality industry. We actually covered the hospitality industry on Stock Club. And the restaurant business is I think it's one of the hardest businesses for anybody, especially a small business owner to start up. And most of these businesses are actually mom and pop spaces. They are not large chains, and large chains are feeling the pinch also because whenever a change happens, they have to pivot, and it affects them, I think, on a much larger scale because they have more restaurants and they have more franchisees and all of this and store-owned restaurants in order to make the adjustment. And the reality is that when you talk about the people portion of it, and I think that restaurants obviously is going to continue to innovate in order to survive because you will see the survival of the fittest, and some restaurants are not going away. But you can't just say, hey, bring down the prices. Okay, well, that's going to cost for the elimination of jobs. It's going to cost some more investment in technology. It's also going to affect what you guys legislate on the back end. It's also going to affect inflation. We got to pass that cost over to the consumer. And so it's not as simple as just, hey, bring down the prices as a grocery chain. Even in the grocery aspect of it, because I've actually worked and understood the technology side of retail, we know that grocery for Walmart, for example, even though they sell the most groceries, I think they sell 1/4 of all groceries in the United States of America, that is largely a loss leader in most aspects of it, especially when you consider the shrinkage, the losses of different things being transported, people stealing, stuff getting broken, have to throw it away, it gets old, it goes on the shelf, it doesn't sell, whatever, right? And so we know that there's a lot of shrinkage, and we also know that the margins are incredibly thin, and they use that as a loss leader to hopefully get you in the door, and then ultimately get you to buy something over in the rest of the store that has a bigger and better margin, and then can help the company be profitable. But it's not as simple as a one size fits all. None of these jobs were supposed to be for long-term employees and for people to look at it as a career. So you can't ask for a livable wage. It was largely used as a way to get you some experience, and then often at times get you to grow into a bigger or a better career, or to get you into something in order to bridge the gap, right? So this administration is absolutely trash for me, but that's what's going on that front. I don't want to make a whole thing about it because it's not a whole segment. In addition to that, the White Sox is issuing a proposal, or they have a rendering for a new park over there in Chicago. Take a look.
Good evening. We start at 6 o'clock tonight with a WGN exclusive. Getting a first look at what a new home for the Chicago White Sox could look like.
The team's lease at Guaranteed Rate Field expires in 5 years. WGN's Jenna Barnes is here with the renderings.
Yeah, Micah and Ray, want to take a water taxi to a White Sox game? Well, you could in this new vision. This is the first time the public is seeing the full ballpark renderings presented by developer Related Midwest. A ballpark with walls of windows facing the Chicago River, with a potential expansion of the Riverwalk, steps leading down to fans who can watch the game on a giant video screen from their boats. This is one rendering in a 17-page book developer Related Midwest is presenting to some lawmakers as the White Sox weigh a move to the South Loop. The current 62-acre vacant lot, known as the 78, could be transformed into a mixed-use development. This rendering shows indoor dining and outdoor lawn space overlooking a new era of the famous exploding scoreboard, the pinwheels a focal point. Another angle shows views of the Willis Tower as fans take in a concert. The developer says 1,000 affordable housing units will also be a part of this development, and their plan includes ideas for Guaranteed Rate Field. There, they envision a reimagined campus with 1,300 residential units and a repurposed stadium that appears to be a soccer field. By the numbers, Related Midwest estimates 5 million annual visitors, a $9 billion estimated investment, $4 billion in stabilized annual economic impact, and 22,000 permanent jobs.
Let me tell you why they add in the affordable housing aspect of it. Is because that's what's needed in order to get the incentives, especially the tax incentives, from most cities. A lot of people don't know that. In order to get these tax incentives, there also has to be some concessions. How do I know this? Because I've been to a lot of meetings where a lot of these developers make these proposals, and then one of the things that the city get back, obviously including jobs and construction and some kind of economic development, but one of the things that they ask for that comes as a result of the residents is they're trying to stabilize, not pushing people out, and so they have to add so many housing or stabilization projects in order to be able to get the incentives from the city itself, right? So we'll see how this plays out. Obviously, we know that there's always long-term things at play, and if they wind up pushing this proposal through, it'll be interesting how it affects the city. So we'll pay attention to what that economic impact looks like. And then last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, Netflix is being sued as a result of their new series called Griselda. Take a look, by the family of the person that they're portraying. Check this out, y'all.
The highly anticipated Griselda on Netflix.
I swear, I know what I'm doing.
Features Colombian actress Sofia Vergara playing the woman known as the Cocaine Queen of Miami and the Black Widow. But the buzzy docuseries spotlighting South Florida's wild drug trafficking in the 70s and 80s and covered by NBC News.
They were a huge name in Colombia.
Has hit a real-life legal hurdle with her son, Michael Blanco, and her estate claiming years of notes, stories, and personal narratives were taken with no compensation.
Netflix, as we've alleged, is using these ideas that were part of interviews, that were memorialized in writings and notes. Nobody else could have those ideas and nobody else could have those stories.
The emergency motion filed by Blanco and his team names Netflix, Sofia Vergara, and the company she co-founded, Latin World Entertainment. Netflix has declined to comment to NBC, and Vergara.
I'm proud of the whole show. I think I couldn't have done anything without, this cast.
Seen here at the premiere with Access Hollywood told Telemundo this week that she was not very aware of the lawsuit because she's been on tour.
Él sí que me da admiración.
But
So essentially, the family is trying to get in on a dig as far as compensation from Netflix in order to try to make sure that they get their cut of the pie. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, because it was a drug empire. You know what I'm saying? I actually watched the series over the last couple of weeks, over the last 2.5 weeks. I think I watched like 2 or 3 episodes. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but I was kind of, doing a lot of the shows from the house because Rita had her surgery and stuff like that. And it was actually really good. I really, really liked it. I think that she did really great. They had an awesome, I'm kind of a movie nerd like that because I be referencing all of these different movies during the live streams and stuff. But they had a really, really good way of portraying what that time, the 70s and the 80s looked like, especially how loose things was. They brought in the CIA impact and how they was, I'm sorry, not the CIA impact. That was, I'm thinking of Snowfall. Now I'm mixing both series up at the same time. But no, the few episodes that I've watched so far, and I actually switched over from watching and starting to watching that in Snowfall because I had watched 3 episodes of that because of my daughter's recommendation. And I started watching Griselda on Netflix because I just like Netflix more, and I'm actually invested in Netflix. But it was pretty good. Like, I think that she did well. They had women, they had drugs, they had all of the good things that we want to see as consumers. And so it'll be interesting to see if the family gets compensated any. And if they do get compensated, whether we would find out about it anyway. But it was a really good series. I'm interested to see how this is going to play out, considering that, they were a drug empire and they were poisoning the community, especially down in Miami, and partly responsible for the flow of drugs that was coming into the United States of America.